25 years. That's how long Amber and I had been married. A quarter-century of early morning coffee, petty arguments, family birthdays, anniversaries we sometimes forgot, and routines so deeply ingrained they practically ran on autopilot. We weren't perfect, but we were steady. At least that's what I thought. We lived in a quiet neighborhood in Jacksonville, a few miles from the coast. Our house wasn't flashy, just a two-story with a wraparound porch, weathered siding, and wind chimes that jingled a little too loudly when the storms rolled in. It was the kind of place we used to sit out on in the evenings, wine in hand, talking about trips we'd take when we had the time. Paris, Big Sur, Glacier National Park. Lately, though, the only thing we talked about on that porch was what we were out of. Milk, paper towels, light bulbs. The spark between us hadn't just dimmed. It had become this low, flickering ember, something you could only see if you looked hard enough in the dark. That Friday started like most Fridays. Amber was up early, already dressed when I came downstairs. She looked sharp. Sky blue blouse tucked into a pencil skirt, her hair curled in soft waves. She'd recently started putting in extra effort. New clothes, more makeup, perfume I didn't recognize. I thought it was just confidence from work. She'd been doing well. Something about leading a new department initiative or campaign. She threw around a lot of buzzwords these days that never made it past my ears. "We're going out tonight," she said, grabbing a protein shake from the fridge. "The office is throwing an anniversary party at that new jazz club downtown. The Marlin. That the one off Bay Street?" I asked, stirring my coffee. She nodded without looking at me, already checking something on her phone. "Should be a late night. You don't need to wait up." I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I was a little relieved. The house had felt heavy lately, and her absence sometimes brought a weird kind of peace. A few hours later, while I was reorganizing the garage, a task I had put off for 3 years, I found an old photo of us from a vacation in Key West. We looked young, burnt from the sun, drunk on cheap wine and each other. It hit me harder than I expected. That's when I got the idea. I figured it'd be a nice gesture to surprise her. Bring her favorite dessert, white chocolate raspberry cheesecake from this little cafe by the marina, and drop by the club. Just to show up, smile, be the guy she used to brag about at parties. Maybe walk her to the car at the end of the night. I hadn't done something thoughtful in a while, and part of me wanted to prove I still could. I got to the Marlin just after 10. The place had that upscale but not too snobby vibe, dim lights, exposed brick walls, slow jazz humming beneath the chatter of people who laughed a little too loud over overpriced drinks. The private event was upstairs. I followed the sound of laughter and clinking glasses to the second floor, cake box balanced in my hand like a peace offering. That's when I saw her. Amber was at the bar. I stopped at the top of the stairs for a second to take her in. She was wearing a light blue dress I didn't recognize, form-fitting, elegant, the kind she used to wear when we went to weddings or fundraisers. It wasn't just that it was new. It was how she wore it, like she was expecting to be looked at. And someone was looking. A man stood next to her, tall, maybe mid-30s, dressed casually in a way that screamed confidence. He leaned in close, laughing at something she said. His hand brushed her lower back. Nothing obvious, but not accidental either. Then, right as I stepped closer, he kissed her. Not a full-on kiss. Just one soft, slow kiss on her temple. But it wasn't platonic. It wasn't professional. I know how a man kisses a woman he's involved with. And that was it. Amber didn't push him away. She didn't laugh it off. She didn't even flinch. She just let it happen. I froze for a second, the box in my hand suddenly feeling like a weight. My stomach dropped in that cold, numb way it does when your brain's still catching up to what your eyes already know. Then she saw me, and everything about her changed. Her back straightened, her shoulders pulled in tight, and she stepped away from him like she'd just remembered where she was. Her expression morphed so fast it was almost impressive. 1 second she was smiling. Really smiling, that soft-eyed grin I hadn't seen in months. And the next, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. The man followed her gaze to me. His face went blank, but not guilty. More cautious. Amber crossed the room fast. That fake, "Oh, hi." Smile plastered on like paint. "Grayson," she said, too loud. "What are you doing here?" "I thought I'd surprise you," I replied, holding up the cake box like an idiot. "Cheesecake." Her smile twitched. "That's sweet. Really. But this is a work thing." I looked past her to the guy, who had turned back to the bar but kept glancing over. He seemed friendly, I said. She narrowed her eyes. "It's not what it looked like." I didn't say it looked like anything. We didn't argue there. She said she needed to get back to her team, that she'd call a cab home. I told her not to bother. I'd wait in the car. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. The drive home was silent until we pulled into the garage. "That guy," I said finally. "What was that?" She unbuckled her seatbelt without looking at me. "He's a colleague. We worked on a big presentation together. He was just thanking me." "By kissing you?" "It was a gesture. An awkward one. Okay? He's European." It didn't mean anything. I nodded slowly, staring straight ahead. "You shouldn't have come," she added. "Showing up unannounced like that. It felt like you didn't trust me." The irony of that nearly made me laugh. Instead, I just got out of the car, took the cheesecake inside, and placed it in the fridge. She didn't touch it. The next morning, she was up early again, already dressed for a jog. She'd gotten into running a year ago, said it helped her clear her mind. I remember when I offered to join her. She said, "I need space in the mornings. That's how I stay sane." I didn't press it. That morning, though, I sat at the kitchen table long after she left, staring at my coffee until it went cold. I kept replaying that moment in the club, how natural it all looked, how out of place I had felt standing there like an outsider in my own marriage. Her smile with him didn't look forced. It looked comfortable, familiar. And that was when the denial started to peel away. Not fast, just a little at the edges. There was a feeling in my chest I couldn't shake off. That kiss was a message. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. And everything after it, every word she said in the car was just noise. A lie, dressed up in professional jargon, and just enough indignation to make me question my own gut. But I'd seen it. You can't unsee that kind of thing. The morning after the club, I woke up before sunrise and just sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee I never drank. The house was still. Amber had already gone out for her run. Her shoes were gone from the mat, her earbuds missing from their usual spot on the counter. I didn't hear her leave. I must have been out cold, or maybe I just didn't want to hear anything anymore. The silence that morning was different. It didn't feel peaceful or empty. It felt staged, like something was being kept from me right out in the open, but I couldn't point to it directly. I didn't know what I was supposed to be angry about. I hadn't caught her in bed with anyone. No text messages or lipstick stains or anything that could stand in a courtroom. All I had was a kiss, a look, a lie that wasn't even clever. But sometimes that's all it takes. I held the mug like it could anchor me. The ceramic felt cold in my hands, like it had been sitting there all night instead of just a few minutes. And then something strange started to happen. My brain began stitching things together, not in anger, but with quiet, mechanical precision. Like it had been doing this in the background for months, maybe longer. And suddenly, I couldn't stop remembering. The first thing that came to mind was last November, Amber's birthday. We'd gone to a quiet seafood place near Neptune Beach. She barely touched her food, said she felt tired. But she kept checking her phone, smiling at something. I thought maybe a friend had sent her a funny video. I even joked, "What's so funny you can't share it with your husband?" She locked the screen and said, "It's just group chat stuff. Work drama. Boring." Then changed the subject to how overpriced the wine was. But she hadn't been smiling at the wine. Then there was her sudden interest in fitness. That came out of nowhere. Amber had always said running was for type A maniacs. We used to laugh at joggers who passed us while we walked the dog, dripping sweat and looking like they were being chased by invisible demons. But one day, about a year ago, she came home with a pair of neon pink Nikes and a subscription to a fitness tracker app. She started running every morning, no matter the weather. She said it cleared her head. When I offered to run with her, thinking it could be something we did together, she smiled awkwardly and said, "I think I just need this time for me. It's the only part of the day that's mine." I didn't push. I wanted to respect her space. That's what a good husband does, right? But now I couldn't stop wondering. Was that space meant for someone else? After the runs came the new perfume. Amber had worn the same scent for years, something soft and floral. I used to tease her that it smelled like spring in a bottle. But last fall, she came downstairs one Monday morning smelling like something else. Something heavier, musky, expensive. She said it was a free sample from her friend Clarissa, a beauty rep. But that bottle kept showing up every Monday. Monday specifically, always before work. The first time I commented on it, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't worry, I still wear your favorite, but sometimes a girl likes to change it up." She was already out the door before I could say anything else. Then there was her phone. We used to be open about everything. We'd trade phones to Google stuff while driving, or she'd hand me hers to find a photo from last weekend's barbecue. But lately, her phone had become like an extra limb, always in her hand or upside down on the table. Notifications turned off. Screen dimmed. She started setting it face down by default, even when we were alone in the living room. One night, I walked into the den while she was scrolling and saw her close out of something fast. Her smile vanished. I asked what she was watching and she shrugged. "Just reading comments on a post. People are wild online." Then she got up and went to fold laundry that didn't exist. That night, when she fell asleep, I sat beside her and stared at her face in the low light of the TV, wondering if I'd ever really known her at all. The one thing I kept circling back to was a name, Oliver. A few months ago, she left her tablet open on the kitchen counter. It was old, barely used, and only synced to her work email and calendar. As I was cleaning up, a message popped up from a contact named Oliver Yellow Heart. Just that, his name and a yellow heart emoji. I'm not proud of it, but I tapped it. The message was short. "Hope you're not too stressed this week. You've got this. Lunch soon?" That's all it said. Nothing damning. No innuendo. No "I miss you" or "last night was amazing." Just encouragement. Polite, but int asterisk mate. The kind of thing you text someone you think about during the day. The kind of message you send to someone who isn't just a coworker. I almost asked her about it. I stood there for what felt like a full minute, thumb hovering over the screen, staring at the conversation thread that didn't reveal much of anything but somehow felt like everything. Then I closed the tablet and put it back exactly where she left it. Because at the time, I told myself I was overreacting. I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself I was the one drifting, the one failing to connect. I told myself I still trusted her. But now I knew. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't some insecure, washed-up husband inventing shadows in his wife's calendar. No, I was right. And that realization, that quiet, soul-puncturing clarity, landed heavier than any fight we ever had. She wasn't just getting space. She was creating distance between us, intentionally. And now I could see it everywhere. The way she didn't ask how my day was anymore. The way she'd leave little notes like she used to, but the handwriting looked rushed, obligatory. The way she smiled at dinner with that soft, distracted expression. As if she was physically present but mentally somewhere else. With someone else. Oliver. The man who texted her with yellow hearts and encouragement. The man who apparently needed to kiss her on the temple for helping with a presentation. The temple, not the cheek, not a handshake, not a pat on the back. It was so subtle, so easy to dismiss, so easy to lie about. And yet, it was everything. Because once someone stops choosing you, even quietly, even in small moments, it doesn't matter if it's a kiss or a glance or an extra long hug. The decision has already been made. The rest is just logistics. I didn't tell anyone that day. Not a friend. Not my brother. Not even the dog, who sat at my feet like he could feel the shift in the air. I didn't confront her. Didn't demand passwords or explanations. Instead, I sat in the stillness and began cataloging the evidence. Not to use as ammunition, but to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined it. That I hadn't somehow caused it. Because the worst part wasn't the betrayal. The worst part was realizing how long I had let it happen. How many things I had brushed off. How many excuses I had accepted. How much of myself I had silenced. I cleaned up the kitchen that morning. I emptied the cold coffee. I wiped the counters. I loaded the dishwasher. Amber came home an hour later, cheeks flushed, earbuds in, saying she had shaved 30 seconds off her mile. I smiled, told her that's great, then watched her go upstairs to shower. And right then, I knew. Something had broken. Not shattered. Not exploded. Just cracked. But cracked wide enough for the truth to finally leak through. It was the following Thursday when everything finally shifted from suspicion to certainty. Amber came home late that night, just after 11. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, pretending to watch an old baseball game rerun with the volume low. She didn't notice me at first. The keys jingled, her heels clicked across the tile, and then she stopped short when she spotted me. "Oh," she said, blinking. "Didn't think you'd still be up." I smiled faintly, keeping my eyes on the screen. "Just couldn't sleep." She hovered near the hallway, fingers toying with the strap of her purse. Her makeup was slightly smudged, like she'd reapplied it once, maybe twice, and her hair was tousled in that way that looked almost purposeful. "Long night," she said. "We had a planning session. Then Oliver suggested grabbing dinner to decompress. A few others joined." "Sounds productive," I replied. She nodded, paused like she was about to say more, then turned and disappeared upstairs. I muted the TV. My hands were shaking. The lies weren't even subtle anymore. Or maybe I was just no longer willing to ignore them. That night, I sat in my office with the door closed and pulled out the car tracker app I'd installed 2 months ago when Amber forgot to pay the registration renewal, and I took the liberty of adding the tracker myself. I told myself it was for safety. Jacksonville's crime stats had gone up. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. I opened the app. Her car wasn't near the office. It wasn't anywhere near her supposed friend's condo. Either, the one she always mentioned as a backup place, to crash if work ran late, and she didn't want to disturb my sleep. Instead, it was parked at the Barclay, a boutique hotel nestled on the southeast end of the city. A place with a rooftop bar and rooms that cost more than our weekly groceries. Discreet, upscale, romantic. I stared at the screen for a long time, just watching the blinking pin that represented her car. My hands hovered over my phone for several minutes. Call her? Drive there? Confront her in the hotel lobby like something out of a movie? I didn't. Not because I was afraid of what I might see, but because at that moment I realized I didn't need to see it. I already knew. The denial had dissolved. It didn't even sting anymore. It just sat there, heavy and obvious, like a crack in a windshield you keep pretending isn't spreading. The next morning, I waited until she left for work. Same perfume, same goodbye kiss on the cheek, and then I made a call. His name was Don Whitmore. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. Not since his private investigation business took off and he moved his family down to St. Augustine. Don and I were friends once. College buddies, then poker nights, then faded into the background like most friendships do once life pulls people in different directions. But I remembered what he did for a living, and I knew he'd answer if I called. He picked up on the second ring. "Gray," he said, surprised. "Man, long time. You good?" I hesitated, then said, "Not exactly." By noon that day, we were sitting in his office above a strip mall, surrounded by outdated security monitors and filing cabinets. "You sure you want to do this?" Don asked after I laid everything out. I didn't respond right away. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "It's not just about catching someone in the act, you know. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You prepared for that?" "I already saw it," I said quietly. "I just didn't take the picture." He nodded. "Then give me a week." 7 days later, a manila envelope showed up at my office, tucked into a bland shipping box with no return address. I didn't open it right away. I waited until the building cleared out, the cleaning crew came through, and only the hum of the HVAC remained. Inside were printed photos, time-stamped, clear, undeniable. Amber and Oliver, holding hands outside the Barclay, walking into the lobby around 9:50 p.m. 2 hours later, captured again in the elevator. Her head on his shoulder, his hand on her lower back. The next morning, Friday, they exited the hotel at 7:16 a.m. together. She was dressed in the same outfit as the night before. No overnight bag. In every photo she looked comfortable, not tense, not secretive, just at ease, like she belonged there, with him. I laid the photos out on my desk like puzzle pieces. There were more in the file. Credit card receipts, camera stills from the hotel bar, even a sh*t of her resting her hand on his chest as they leaned over a cocktail menu. You'd think the worst part would be the int** Macy of it. The hands, the expressions. But the worst part was how happy she looked. That happiness used to belong to me. When I got home that night, she was already there, barefoot in the kitchen, stirring pasta. "I made your favorite," she said, smiling. "Thought you had a rough week." I just nodded, walked past her, and went upstairs. Couldn't look at her. Not yet. Not with those images still burned into my brain. The lie wasn't about the kiss anymore, or the perfume, or the temple. The lie was her whole life with me, because she had built a second one, quietly, deliberately, and that, more than anything, was the betrayal. Not the infidelity, the intention, the choice. She was living two lives, and I was only invited to one of them. I didn't bring up the photos, didn't confront her. Not yet, because now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't about proving I was right. This was about reclaiming my silence. She had built her deception like a performance. Small pieces, scattered lies, plausible deniability. She played the role of wife while sneaking out the back door to be someone else entirely. But I wasn't going to interrupt the act. Not yet. Let her keep performing. Let her think I was still in the dark. Let her feel confident. Because that confidence was going to be her undoing. The night ended with us sitting on the couch, watching some show we'd seen a dozen times. She curled up beside me, legs tucked under mine, laughing at the same joke she'd laughed at last time. And I just sat there, still, eyes on the screen, mind somewhere else. I thought about how, just a week ago, I'd have given anything for this moment. For her closeness, for her attention, for her smile. But now it felt like sitting next to a stranger who wore my wife's skin. And the worst part was, I didn't miss her anymore. I missed the version of her that never existed. After I saw the photos, something inside me went still, quiet in a way that felt unnatural at first, but later I came to recognize it as clarity. There were no tears, no shouting, no accusations, just a cold, deliberate sort of silence. Like I was watching my life through a window I couldn't open anymore. I could see everything. The dinner table where we once laughed until we cried. The porch where we made plans. The hallway where we used to steal kisses on the way out the door. But it all felt like someone else's life now. Someone who still believed her. The oddest part was how quickly I got used to pretending. It didn't feel like deception, it felt like survival. Like camouflage. Amber had hers. Now I had mine. And it wasn't even that hard. That surprised me more than anything. She'd come home from work, kick off her heels, talk about her day like nothing had changed. Sometimes she'd cook. Sometimes she'd hum while stirring a pot on the stove, wearing that old college sweatshirt of mine that used to make me feel lucky. Now it just felt like a borrowed costume. A layer she put on over her lies. And the notes started coming back. Sticky notes on the fridge. Don't forget your vitamins, red heart. Slipped into my lunch bag. Hope today isn't too crazy. Smiley face. Even in my car. Tucked above the visor. Gas tanks full. Just like my love for you. That one made me almost laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was such a polished line. So manufactured. So intentional. Like she'd read somewhere that men liked reminders. That marriages stayed alive through affirmations. But not once did she say anything real. Not once did she mention the late nights, the hotel, The way she pulled away when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She just kept pretending. And I matched her step for step. We became actors in a play neither of us wanted to write, both sticking to the script so precisely that it almost looked convincing. If you'd seen us at dinner, you'd think we were the picture of stability. We talked about the neighbors, about the new Thai place that opened off Main, about her team lead, which was just code for Oliver. I learned to nod at the right moments, to smile, to laugh on cue. She'd make jokes about Oliver sometimes, subtle digs. He's sweet, but such a know-it-all. Or you die laughing at how bad he is at karaoke. Casual, harmless stuff, all calculated. I realized that over time, that was her version of cover. And I let her do it, because something inside me was studying her now. Watching, collecting. I was no longer trying to win her back. I was trying to understand just how far gone she really was. One night, about 2 weeks after I got the photos, she curled up next to me on the couch while I was reading. She laid her head on my shoulder like it was still sacred territory. "I miss this," she whispered. I didn't look up. "Miss what?" "Just this. Feels like we're getting back to normal, doesn't it?" I felt her eyes on me, searching. I nodded. "Yeah." She exhaled, a soft, satisfied sound. "I've been thinking maybe we should take that trip to Asheville. You always wanted to, right?" I turned the page of my book. "Yeah," I said again. "Maybe we should." She kissed my shoulder and curled in tighter, like that settled it. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, and it struck me. She wasn't trying to save the marriage. She was trying to reframe it. Like if she could keep the surface polished, no one, including me, would notice the rot beneath it. And maybe part of her really believed that if she smiled enough, cooked enough, said the right things, the betrayal would somehow reset. But it doesn't work that way. You can't unburn a bridge and expect the road to be whole. You can't put a lie in a box, tape it shut and call it healed. Still, she tried. A few days later, I came home to a candlelit dinner. Steak, roasted potatoes, her signature lemony asparagus I hadn't tasted in months. She even opened the wine from our anniversary 2 years ago. The one we'd been saving for something special. I sat down slowly. She was already dressed up. Red lipstick, a black dress I remembered from our 10th anniversary. She used to say it made her feel powerful. "Don't look so surprised," she said with a playful grin. "I just wanted to do something nice. You've been so patient with me lately." "Patient?" I echoed. She nodded. "With work. With everything. I know I've been stretched thin." Stretched thin. That was her phrase. She'd used it for months, as though being pulled in 2 directions was something that just happened to her. Like gravity. Like traffic. Like it had nothing to do with the man she was spending her nights with at the Barclay. She poured our wine. "To us?" she said, lifting her glass. I clinked mine against hers, took a sip, and smiled. She didn't see the sadness behind it. She only saw cooperation. That night, she tried to kiss me more deliberately. It had been a while since she initiated anything. Her hands were soft, careful, a little unsure. But I saw the disconnect in her eyes. The flicker of someone performing. I kissed her back, just long enough for her to believe it. Then I pulled away, mumbled something about needing rest, and went to brush my teeth. In the mirror, I stared at my reflection. I didn't feel like a husband anymore. I felt like a hostage in a house that smelled like lavender and betrayal. Some nights, I would lie awake and wonder how we got here. I traced the years backward, trying to pinpoint the moment the distance began. Was it when her dad got sick and I didn't know how to comfort her? Was it when I missed our anniversary that 1 year for a work conference? Was it when we stopped saying, "I love you," out loud and started saying it with routine instead? Or maybe it had nothing to do with me at all. Maybe it was always there, just hidden behind the veil of familiarity and shared mortgages. The pretending continued. She started sending songs again. Spotify links to tracks that reminded her of us. Once it was Yellow by Coldplay. Another time it was Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. I used to make her playlists. She kept them in her car for years. Now she was trying to rewrite the soundtrack. One afternoon I got a text. Thought of you when this came on blue heart followed by a link. I didn't click it. I just stared at the heart emoji. She never used the blue one before. Red, yes. Sometimes yellow. But blue? That was the one she used for Oliver in the tablet message I'd seen months ago. The same emoji. It was a small detail, but it told me everything. She wasn't just pretending for me. She was starting to lose track of who she was pretending to. I deleted the text. Later that night, she asked if I got it. I said my phone was acting up. Battery issues. She offered to take a look. I said it had already fixed itself. She smiled and leaned against my shoulder. I let her, because by then I had already decided how this would end. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to throw things or threaten or make her feel like the victim. She had rehearsed that ending in her head 1,000 times. Probably. No, I was going to end this the same way she started it. Quietly, with intention, and without a single lie. It was a Thursday when she mentioned it, the company party. I was in the backyard cleaning the gutters, half listening, half wishing I'd hired someone else to do it. She stood at the patio door, sipping iced tea, her sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Oh," she said, almost as an afterthought. "Next Friday's that quarterly wrap-up party I told you about, the one at the hotel downtown. Should be boring. Slides, drinks, Oliver doing his stand-up routine about spreadsheets." She chuckled softly at her own sarcasm. My hand froze on the ladder. There it was again. His name dropped casually. Meant to sound indifferent, maybe even dismissive. But I knew by now, every mention was a test. She had gotten comfortable lying. Too comfortable. So now she sprinkled in the truth like seasoning. Just enough to make the story taste real. "That's the one at the Palmetto?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. She nodded. "Yeah. Same place they held the winter mixer. It'll be nothing. You don't need to worry." Worry. That word again. Like I was some overly suspicious man needing to be pacified with crumbs of transparency. "I'm not worried," I replied. And I wasn't, because worry had long since burned off and hardened into something sharper. Clarity. I watched her sip her tea, her gold bracelet catching the sunlight. She looked calm, like a woman with no secrets, like a woman who had already rehearsed every excuse she might need if her worlds ever collided. But she didn't know I'd already seen them collide. This time I wouldn't be catching up to the lie. This time I would be there when it was made. All week I planned it. She talked about the party like it was a chore. "Do you think I should wear my navy dress or the gray one?" Honestly, I'd rather just skip it, but everyone's expected to show face. I pretended to care, offering the occasional shrug or suggestion. I told her the navy made her look powerful. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek. The morning of the event, she left the house in full armor. Heels, flawless makeup, a dress I hadn't seen in years. Not the navy, not the gray. It was black, elegant, sharp, the kind you wear when you want to turn heads and not look like you're trying. She kissed me at the door. "Don't wait up, babe. I might stay late if there's networking stuff." "Of course," I said. She drove off. I waited 2 hours before I left. I didn't rush. I showered, shaved, put on a white shirt and black slacks. Not the kind of outfit I wore casually. The kind I wore when I wanted to be remembered. I stopped by the store and picked up a bottle of wine. The same one we drank the night I proposed, Chateau de Pez, 2001. We'd shared it in Tallahassee, on a balcony we couldn't afford, drunk on excitement and nerves. I didn't buy it for nostalgia. I bought it for contrast. The hotel was on the river, glass-paneled and busy with Friday night buzz. I parked in the underground garage, walked through the lobby, and took the elevator to the 3rd floor where the conference rooms and ballrooms sat behind chrome doors. I didn't go inside. I stood outside the glass partition near the far wall, where I had a clean view of the room but remained out of frame. No one noticed me. Guests came and went, chatting in groups, name tags swinging from lanyards. A bar to the right, a buffet to the left. And then I saw her, Amber, my wife, standing at the bar in that black dress, holding a martini in one hand, gesturing with the other as she laughed at something Oliver said. He was beside her, relaxed, confident, like someone who belonged next to her. His hand rested on the small of her back. Not briefly, not accidentally. It stayed there as she laughed again, leaning slightly into him like it was muscle memory. They looked like a couple. Not new, not forbidden, just routine. I watched her tilt her head up toward him. He said something that made her face soften. Not just amused, but warm. That look, the one I hadn't seen aimed at me in years. She wasn't performing. She wasn't pretending. She was herself. With him, it didn't sting the way I thought it would. I didn't feel rage or humiliation. I felt done. I walked inside. No one stopped me. I moved through the room like I belonged there. That's the trick. Don't hesitate. No one questions confidence. I approached the bar calmly, carrying the wine bottle in one hand. Amber didn't see me until I was 5 feet away. She turned. Her eyes widened. I watched her inhale, sharp and panicked, like she'd been caught naked. "Grayson," she said, stepping slightly away from Oliver. Her voice cracked, just a bit. Oliver turned toward me, his face shifting from confusion to recognition. We'd never been introduced, but men like him know the look of a husband. He dropped his hand from her waist as if it suddenly burned. I said nothing. I placed the bottle of wine gently on the high-top table next to them. Then, from my pocket, I pulled the silver chain I'd been wearing for a week, the one holding my wedding ring. I unclasped it, slid the ring off, set it beside the wine. Amber's mouth opened. No sound came out. Oliver looked at her, then at me. I nodded once, then walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence behind me said more than words ever could. I walked out of the ballroom, through the lobby and back to my car. As I pulled onto the bridge, the lights of the hotel disappeared behind me. I drove without music, without thought, just the sound of the road under the tires and the slow, rhythmic exhale of someone who had finally stopped holding their breath. At home, I poured myself a glass of scotch and sat on the porch. Same wooden chair, same chipped table, same night air pressing against my skin. But everything had changed. She hadn't texted. She wouldn't. Not yet. She was still standing in the aftershock, trying to piece together what I had seen, what I had known, and how long I had known it. She was probably imagining I'd scream, that I'd demand an explanation. She didn't know the screaming had already happened. It just hadn't been out loud. It had been quiet, daily, internal, drowning me in questions I no longer needed answers to. She had answered them with her hands, with her eyes, with the ease of her laugh beside another man. By midnight, I was still on the porch, the bottle untouched. The ring was gone. The symbol of what we once were now sat between 2 glasses in a hotel ballroom next to a wine label we used to dream over. I didn't need to retrieve it. It was exactly where it belonged. There was no confrontation, no shouting match, just silence, the kind that hums under your skin. I gathered everything. Dawn's photos, printouts of her messages from the old tablet, hotel receipts, and placed them in a folder. On top, I added the ring, and a note that simply read, "You chose him. I choose myself." I slid it under her pillow. That morning I left early. When I came home, half of her closet was empty. Her keys were on the counter. No goodbye, no explanation, just absence. The kitchen was still. Her favorite mug sat in the sink, untouched. I stood there for a while, waiting to feel something sharp. But all I felt was weight lifting. She called twice. I didn't answer, not out of anger, but because there was nothing left to say. The house was quieter now, but not in a lonely way. It was peaceful, clean, the kind of silence that allows you to hear yourself think again. I sat on the porch with my coffee, staring out at the yard we once planned to fence. That old wooden table between us used to hold dreams. Now it held only truth. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was just free. For the first time in years, I chose me, and it was enough.